Hello everyone, I am Chromoid, and we are back to another awkward analysis in Tank Wars. Today our subject will be the Land Barge Incorporated team submitted by Varian 101. They're very well mannered tanks. They don't take off unless they have enemies to shoot at, so we're just going to leave them unpaused and get right into the review here. Start off with the artillery piece. This is about a 5,000 materials SPG, for lack of a better term. It's got some armor and stuff, but its main deal is this 500mm gun on it. Let's look at the hull before we get into the gun itself. The hull is going to be made of a combination of metal and stone, 2 layers of metal in the front with a bunch of stone. Like the main chassis is made completely of stone. It's got 2 layers of metal on the front and 1 layer of metal on the sides, except for the bottom layer, which is 2 layers once again because it's protecting the wheels here. You'll notice there's not a whole lot of wheels. There is a set of power wheels here and a set of power wheels here, and then the front 2 wheels are turning wheels. So they're not very nimble. They're not very good at turning, honestly. They're pretty slow all around, and I'll show you what I mean here. Yeah. Let's go and hop on this bad boy right over here. Netter physics are wonderful. Just free fall for ages. Alright, I'm already turned it all the way up to 100% on the drive, and we're just now getting up to 4 meters per second. 5, 6. Yeah, I believe this thing tops out somewhere around 13 meters per second, maybe 14. Not very fast at all. I'm going to turn it. Again, it's got some turning radius on it, but it's very, very slight. It actually turns better once it slows down and gets a little bit of speed going, but it almost completely stops when it's in a full 360 turn. So that's not a whole lot of speed. In fact, I think it's probably the slowest tank I've ever viewed so far. But that's okay. I don't think these were meant to be very fast. I think their purpose is to provide supporting fires. I'll show you in a second. Another interesting thing that I'm going to actually showcase right here, they have rubber blocks around the front of them and the sides to prevent friendly ramming issues. Interesting on a very slow tank. You would think you'd see a lot of these on faster tanks, but these are the ones that have the rubber rams. Everything else on this team doesn't have rubber on it, which I thought was rather interesting. In the back, we've got an origin block. This is to make sure that they spawn at the distance that the creator wants them to be at, which the maximum is 20, and they are at 20, I checked. Back here we have some distraction cubes, or little distraction ammunition. The back end's open. I'm not really sure how I feel about that. I feel like a lucky shot or a near miss from a high explosive would set those off accidentally. They're not the strongest of blocks. I wouldn't leave them exposed, but they're encased in metal on the other sides. And yes, the front one is within 5 meters of the main hull, so it's good. It's not out of the rules. We have 12 repair bots back here. I believe those are all the repair bots that are on this tank. Yep, fully exposed, so an unlucky hit back here could pretty much cripple any ability for it to repair itself. Without repair bots, it won't be able to repair at all. And down here we have the shell. Now the shell is going to be a 500mm, I call this a high explosive slug. Basically you have one gunpowder casing, probably could do with another one, but it's just the one, and the rest is all high explosive. There's no shell nose on it at all. None of these are on there. It's just pure high explosives. This is not meant to penetrate. This is not meant to punch through anything. This is meant to splash. I suspect that the purpose of these tanks is to splash enemies, strip off vulnerable barrels, detection equipment, all that stuff that's exposed on the surface and may not have the highest armor rating or health. As you can see, this does 6,097 damage. Now, granted, that's explosive damage, which is very weak to armor. So anything with any amount of armor is going to mitigate that quite a bit. But it covers a wide radius. It'll pretty much splash any tank that it hits. A direct hit will splash most tanks completely. Larger tanks like, I'm trying to think here. I'll think of one eventually. There's its opponent, the Iridium, might be large enough to not be covered by that splash. But it's a large splash and a large amount of damage. Only a 2-meter shell rack needed for it, interestingly enough. But that's about all there is to it. And if you'll see, it gets right down to cram velocity once again. We've seen this once before, but you might as well. The only reason you would choose APS over cram at this point is because you will always get that damage, and you will always get that splash, and you can potentially shorten the amount of reload. You can out DPS a cram cannon with the APS any day. But that's not going to be the case with this tank, as I'll show you right here, because this turret is well, it's extremely slow, and I thought I fired it earlier. I'll show you what I mean here, though. And there's the shot. I am using the new version of the game right now to showcase this, so you get the pretty particle effects. But now we gotta wait for about 12 seconds for it to reload. It's already, well, I'm sorry, it's already reloaded. We gotta wait 12 seconds for it to cool down. It's still cooling down. I still can't fire it. Now I can. But now it's out of ammo. Let's freeze it right here. Not gonna chase that. It's gonna take a while to reload this thing. It has some direct inputs back here. I'm not entirely sure how those are going to help it speed up its reload time. And it has two clips in the back here, each attached to an autoloader. I would think these make more sense than these direct inputs up front, because direct inputs tend to actually slow down your reload. If they're if you have an input just directly connected to the gun, it'll even tell you that. So I'm not entirely sure how efficient this setup is. Definitely could use some more coolers, not nearly enough for this gun to be effective at firing. But then again, they are called artillery pieces. They're meant to sit in the back and just lob the 6,000 damage high explosive shells at their enemies. One thing I thought was interesting, again, I'm not sure this is the best choice, but it's interesting, is a 3-meter elevation mantlet placed sideways. Now, I get that that is great for getting side-to-side range. That's great if you have a fixed gun, but this is not a fixed gun. I've already showed you. This is a fully 360-degree turret. It really doesn't make any sense. Well, it was 360 degrees until I put the control block here. But it doesn't make any sense to me why you would put something sideways, maybe for aesthetics reasons, but it just doesn't make sense to have this here, because if you look, I can't get the gun to go down any further than that. I'm trying to find the depression here. There it is. It's very, very small amounts of depression. I can, if I pull it over here, try not to shoot my friendlies here. That's maximum depression. I mean, it works. But you see, anything that runs up right up on it is going to absolutely wreck it with complete immunity to this gun. Especially a low profile tank, and there are quite a few in this tournament. So, again, I know it's a support vehicle. I know it's supposed to sit in the back and lob these shells. But, I mean, it can't shoot down very far, and it really can't get the gun angled up very far either. Just do one more shot here and show you what I mean. I promise the other tanks will go by a lot quicker. This is just very interesting. Not a lot of range, honestly. In fact, I don't think that even reaches the 800-meter distance that the enemy tanks are going to be spawning at. So I'm not entirely sure about this gun setup. I like the slugs. I like the idea there. I think that if you really wanted to make use of this as an APS gun, you should have capitalized on the reload capability of APS and, made it a bit faster reload. Maybe put a different kind of mantlet on here. I don't know. It's a very cool looking tank, a very cool looking artillery piece. Let's move on to the next part of this entry. These are, I think these are the bread and butter of this team. These are called the, what are these called? Artillery runners. Now, at first I couldn't figure out why in the world they were called artillery runners. I was like, that's a ram boat if ever I saw one. It's just covered in spikes. It's very low. You see the angled slopes here all around. Enemies will run up on the rams and over the top, and then they'll impale themselves on the spikes over here. A lot of engines on it. Very, very sharp turn. You can see in the back here, it's got Another interesting method for turning, these are turning wheels placed facing sideways on the rear of the tank. So they will swivel it by, well, let me show you. If I can get off my original tanking on this one. Here we go. Put another control block here. And I start this one up. Goes a lot faster than the artillery piece. If you look in the back here, though, it's dragging these wheels, which really doesn't matter. I don't think friction is a huge deal in this game. But if I turn the tank like this, you'll see the wheels start to turn and they catch, and then the tank rotates. It's an odd way of steering. I'm not really sure how I feel about it. It definitely doesn't slow the tank down as much as you would as some other methods of steering. But I don't know. It's just a weird way of doing the steering. I've never seen it done before. Very interesting. Personally, if I was going to do it this way, I would have made these power wheels and had them activate when the tank tried to turn left or right, so they would start spinning and swivel it really quickly. But, you know, to each their own. Another origin block here in the back. And then I figured out why it's called the artillery runner. Yeah, that's an APS gun running half the length of this entire skiff right here. I count 12, 12 ejectors, which means 12 autoloaders. Upon further inspection, yes, they are 1 meter autoloaders. But what are they firing? What size are they? 236 millimeters. And they are firing, see where it is, there it is, this thing. Now this is another high explosive slug, but unlike the artillery pieces slugs, this is built more for shell velocity than actual damage. You can see, if I put this down to the proper, I hate doing this, okay, put it right here, there you go, 236. If I put it down to 236, it only does 690 damage with a radius of 8 meters. That's not very impressive. But it does move a lot faster than the artillery pieces rounds, 458 meters per second. Now that's about average for a normal APS gun. Not very fast, but not slow either. That's a good velocity right there, especially if it's high explosive, where the actual velocity isn't going to really matter because all its damage comes from the explosive capabilities. But here's the thing that I was wondering about, because you see how long this thing is. You see how many autoloaders. I was thinking this is a really rapid fire gun then. That's a neat idea. It obviously runs right up into its opponent, impales them with these, and then just unloads this into their side or their front or whatever it happened to get a hold of. And anything that runs into its side or rear runs up over the top and impales itself on top. It's very, very neat design. So I was like, okay, I can get behind this. And then I tried out the fire rate, and honestly, I don't know. And it's lacking, in my opinion. And you can see what I'm talking about. It's just about a 3.5 second wait for these shells, and these are only 690 damage shells. I was honestly a little underwhelmed, and it may be just that there wasn't enough materials to finish the gun properly, but there it is. There's the problem. It's not the shell speed being the reload speed, because I checked it, and it always had a shell ready. It was never out of shells. I chain fired it for about a minute before I did this video, and it was never out of shells. That cooldown speed, though, right there, 3.74 seconds, that's what's killing it. And I feel like it really could have benefited from some more coolers. Again, maybe materials played a factor and just didn't have enough materials left to make this thing really efficient. But it really could have done with maybe a 1 second, maybe 1.25 second cooldown period instead of a 3.75 second period. It's just way too slow for the amount of damage you're getting out of the shell. But other than that, I thought it was a very, very neat little design. Again, metal and stone. There's a lot of metal on top, obviously, because it's going to expect to have tanks up on top of it, and it doesn't want to suffer too much damage. The metal gives it more HP on top and more armor. and it's more metal on the inside too. Still some stone, making a 3-layer protection around the wheels, metal, stone, but it's definitely, probably because it's so compact, it has a lot less metal or stone and more metal in it. Right here, interestingly enough, the ammo right here has a lot more stone around it. I thought there'd be more metal, but it's not. So interesting design. I like the centralized powertrain. Very cool idea. Lots of power wheels everywhere to get it up to speed and to make sure it doesn't lose its mobility. But that's about it for the artillery runner. Now, the last one is a single tank. It's the only one of its kind on this team, and it's called the artillery skiff. Yes, the artillery skiff. And I just want to go ahead and point out a very devilishly clever idea. The rule for distraction ammo boxes: they may not be more than 5 meters from the main hole. Well, if you go this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, they're definitely 5 meters away from the main hole here. But if you go this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, diagonally and vertically, 1, 2, 3, 4, these things are 5 meters away from this wheel guard right here, and that's part of the main hole. So I didn't honestly catch this the first time I reviewed these tanks. I think I was a little tired and bleary-eyed, honestly, when I saw this thing. And it may be a bit cheaty, but honestly, it's within the rules. So, Variant 101, if you watch this, I'm going to have to give you a slow clap of applause and at the same time shake my head at you, because that is very cheeky. Very cheeky. It's within the rules, but you son of a gun. Anywho, just had to get that out there because I know someone's going to point that out and say, "Oh, it's not right. That's not right." No, it is right. It's just someone played me. I'm still trying to figure out what. Oh, there are 2-meter slopes here. Okay, I was trying to figure out why those are 1 meter and these are even narrower than them. I was trying to figure out what's going on. I was like, that's not flat. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Anyway, there's an origin block. Like I said, these are wheel guards. This entire length of metal is completely covered in wheels. Again, at the front, it uses traditional power steering. Or, I'm sorry, regular car steering, not power steering. These are all turning wheels. They'll simply turn the direction the tank wants to go. They do not provide additional thrust. Up here, you have another set of these ammo boxes, these cheeky little things. Again, they are not within the distance of the main hole from here, but if you go to the side, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, they're within the range. So I got fooled hard. Any hoodles. This is a much more boxy type of tank, at least from the front. It doesn't have the sloped sides that like the artillery runner or even the artillery piece has. No rubber on it. It's very much a no-nonsense, flat pancake of a tank. The inside's got several rows of these ammo boxes, so if it gets its forward and rear distraction boxes detonated, it will still be able to fire off its round of that's 32 missiles. I did check it. It's within the rule. It's just, wow, it's a lot of missiles. Is it 32? No, it's 16. My bad. I'm doing the math wrong. It's 32 gantries, 16 missiles. I was about to freak out. I was like, well, 32 missiles, two gantries apiece. It's way over. I can't have missed that. But yes, these are what I call RPG missiles. They're basically just a fuel tank, a thruster, and 2 frag warheads. Nothing else. No guidance, nothing. They just fire straight. Interestingly enough, they're pretty doggone accurate. And in the center is a gun, 60 millimeter. I really don't know what this does. It fires, if I'm not mistaken, it fires a kinetic round, which is in here somewhere. Get this pulled apart. Here we go. Am I going the wrong way? I am going the wrong way. It's back here somewhere. I first found this and I thought, oh, there's a relic. Someone forgot to take out their APS system after, or their AP system after they scrapped it. And no, it actually does fire shells. This is just a single sabot. It's a 60 millimeter up here. Fires about 829 meters per second for each shell. Reloads fairly quickly, about a 1.3 second reload, and that's about it. It's not very fancy. It's a quick reloading little shell, and I think the reason for that is because there's not a lot to this gun. It's literally a mantlet, some barrels, one firing piece, and a couple of direct inputs. That's all there is to it. So even though the shell reloads pretty quickly, it honestly doesn't fire that fast. And I'll show you what I mean here. See if I can land on that target. Nope. Flat tanks are the worst to teleport to. There it is. Alright. So if I get behind it, the first thing it's going to launch that you'll see is the missiles. I'm going to show you just how accurate these things are. Just straight as an arrow. I never could get my missiles to work that well when I was testing out the whole missile rule for this this tournament. So mad props to Variant 101 for getting these RPGs to work very well. And you can hear that gun firing off. It's not the most consistent. In fact, I'm actually shooting the hole right there, you can see. I'm shooting the hole and it's doing nothing to it. Very slow firing. I think it's just there for, just for the sake of having an extra weapon. The missiles are the main armament for this tank. I like the little star pattern here with the exhaust. It has a lot of exhaust. I haven't actually checked how fast this one goes, so let's look at that real quick. If I remember which control I'm looking for. There we go. And it gets up to even faster speeds than the artillery runners, interestingly enough. This thing is, I think, designed to be an orbiter. Let me look at it real quick here. You can see broadsides below this range is 600. It's supposed to run perpendicular to its enemy, or parallel, I should say, parallel to its enemy, and it will try to stay right around 600 meters away from the enemy. So it circles around the battlefield at 600 meters. This will work when you have clusters, when you have cluster fights like it had during its fight against the Team Transition Medal. Against really spread out fights, though, I'm not too sure how this will work because the AI is going to get tripped out trying to stay away from one vehicle, and then it's going to come closer to another vehicle, and I'm just not sure how well that'll work. But anyway, it's just an orbiter that goes around and fires missiles. It's very, very simple but elegant in its design. And that's it for the Land Barge Incorporated. I think I've babbled on long enough about this. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you got something out of it. I hope I did a bit better than my last few reviews. I know I'm still missing stuff. I'm trying to get better at this. I'm not the best at from the depths mechanics. So if anyone has any inputs, any ideas about how I can make this better or what I'm missing, your opinion's always welcome. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I've been Chromoid, and I'll see you in the next match.